G'day, good morning. Where are we now? This is what it's been like the last 3 weeks in particular. Last 4 weeks, really. We are tweeting the things. G'day, James, Stephen. Welcome along. Or is it? Is it still Twitter? I still can't help but go to twitter.com and then just let it redirect. I will not succumb to typing X. Oh, look at that. Did I not even post the tweet? I thought I scheduled the tweet. You got to post drafts scheduled. Huh. Maybe I didn't. All right, bear with me while I socialise my things. G'day, Wayne. This has just been such a crazy, 4 weeks in particular. I'm going to jump around a bit here, but at the end of the blog post, which I wrote for the launch of Have I Been Pwned and decided not to push out until Tuesday. There's a bit about there about my step count, because of course we measure all of the things these days, and it had suffered somewhat. It had suffered completely. I think I'd gone from like 13,000 steps a day or something, which is good, down to like 6. It almost felt like 6 full stop, not 6,000. Almost felt like just 6. All right, let me just tweet the things here. See, I thought I had put this in a tweet that was scheduled. Should I be more organized with these things? I don't know. At least I'm doing it at the same time of day now. All right. Let's say I'm live with my weekly vid. And then, of course, there's all the different platforms. Someone was saying to me recently, I think it was Richard Campbell, was saying, use whatever it was to broadcast to everything, which I don't have a problem with, other than the fact that as soon as you do that, a bunch of people get upset, normally on the non-Twitter platforms. I know they get upset on the internet, one of the chances. And I think the basis on which they get upset is they say, you should buy into, let's say Blue Sky, I'm putting it on now. You should buy into Blue Sky and actually engage directly, which I do every time someone replies. But anyway, regardless, we're done. We're here. Restream, Wayne says. I don't know if it's Restream. I feel like it's something else. Something that can broadcast to every platform, which I probably should have done before anyway, but now that there's Mastodon and Blue Sky as well, not to mention the raft of other things that are a little bit more edgy or a little bit less to the political leanings that most of us here probably have. Automatically post a Truth Social each day. See how that goes. Anyway, let's see. Wayne says, add a button to the Stream Deck to tweet that you are live. Well, that's not a bad idea. I do have the little Stream Deck sitting here. Could do that. Could put that on my list of things to do. I'm surrounded by a list of things to do because, of course, a bunch of stuff got neglected as a result of all the Have I Been Pwned 2.0 stuff. One of the things on my to-do list, sitting on my desk here, this is a Shelly dimmer too. So these are the IoT relays that sit behind the light switches on the wall. Stefan's here. G'day, mate. Talk about you in a moment. And all the awesome stuff you've done this week. This is a Shelly dimmer too. And we've got a lot of these in the house. And for some reason, on one particular, well, it's actually two particular circuits with the same transformer, they both would die. So they'd work for like 3 weeks, and then they'd almost like simultaneously die. And what I mean by die is that the light would still be on. You could dim a tiny bit, but you could just never turn the light off. You couldn't do it with the physical switch. You couldn't do it digitally. So as a result, I now have sitting on my desk one burned out Shelly and the transformer, one of the transformers. So what we've done in conjunction with the people from the distributor for Shelly here, they've sent me a bunch of the new ones, which look like this. Now you might be thinking, wow, they got a lot smaller, didn't they? Because it's a smaller box. That's it. It's just a smaller box. It's the same thing inside. And for some reason, Shelly managed to make these boxes so that they are impossible to open, almost impossible to open without tearing them. But anyway, these are the new Shelly 3s. That's the old Shelly 2s, which, yeah, they're identical. it's in fact, I'm pretty sure it's exactly the same housing that they sit in. Now, We're trying to solve this problem by the 2 dodgy transformers with the 2 Shellys that kept turning out, replacing one of the transformers, which I'm now going to send back with one of the dead Shellys to the distributor so they can figure out what's going on, and then putting these Shelly 3s in, hoping that that's going to fix the problem. Now, this is my tangent of why stuff's sitting on my desk here undone. Not done. One of the cool things about the Shelly 3 is that they do Bluetooth and that they can act as Bluetooth repeaters. So when I first set this up, Home Assistant was like, hey, would you like to make this a Bluetooth repeater? I'm like, yeah. Oh, yeah, that sounds cool. Let's do that. Completely new interface, completely new API. So I've got scripts that go through the 80 Shellys or something in the house. They enumerate through the one IP range that everything's on. And they just go through and they do things like check for firmware updates and all that. And now, of course, it's different because there's Shelly 3s and they're a different API and a different endpoint. And because have I been pwned, I haven't written the code to do that yet. And there's an update pending. G'day, JF. James says, trying out millimeter presence detectors yet? These are fun because they can do zones and count people. Oh, that's pretty cool. A little slow in comparison to PIR sensors, though. So as we're going through this massive house project at the moment to renovate rooms here and then completely knock down the house next door and extend out there and do God knows what, home theatre. Oh, I spoke about that this week too. Crikey, that was good. Anyway, as we're doing all that, we've got all these tradies coming through the house for one thing or another. And a bunch of them have like looked around and gone, what are all those little sensors and things on the walls? And we've got motion sensors in every room, to your point just there, James. But one of the things that I've found is very cool is that I've got on my ceiling, which you can't quite see from the camera, a fan which is from Big Ass Fans. And the Big Ass Fans all integrate with Home Assistant. They all have presence sensors and they all have thermometers as well. Is that the right word? Temperature sensors, whatever. They can't do humidity, so it misses that. And they can't do the light level, which a bunch of my presence sensors can do. So I've got things like a presence sensor, or rather a little Akera motion sensor up there, which looks at motion in the room, but also looks at light levels. So if there's motion and the light level is below whatever it is, then all the lights here come on. Anyway, the point is it's cool that there's more stuff getting actually built in and hardwired, and I'm not replacing batteries on it, and has first-class integration with Home Assistant. So as we start building more and more with this project, we'll hopefully have more things like that. Steven says everything presence and everything presence light are both good setups by a Home Assistant YouTuber. I'm going to Google that now. Everything presence. Oh, everything presence 1. The one about multiple people in the room. How are people using that? Like, that sounds cool. I'm just wondering how you'd use it. And is it AI? It has to be AI. Oh, why's that popped up over there? The speaking about detections and all the rest of it, the amount of stuff coming out of Ubiquiti at the moment is nuts. We'll get on to have a wimpo in a moment. The amount of stuff coming out of Ubiquiti is nuts. They're doing so much AI stuff with so much integration. And it's you look at their demo videos and it's like AI detections for when someone walks onto a work site and then they don't have a hard hat, because the AI can figure out they're not wearing a hard hat, and then use that they've now launched like a broadcast speaker, which can then say, like, this is a hard hat work site. You got to have your hard hat, which seems kind of cool. Right, everything presence 1, everything smart technology. Okay, I see. $101. Well, it's an expensive one, isn't it? The ultimate smart home sensor supports 24 gigahertz millimeter wave sensor. Precise motion tracking. Okay, interesting. All right, I'll add that to the list of random shit to put in my house. And that list is long. James loves Big Ass Fans. I Googled endlessly when our maintenance people told me how big they were when we actually got them. Well, so what I like about these fans, first of all, I mean, you can't, I'll look one up, I'll drop the link in. They look great. So I've got a black one in my office, which works well with the theme. We've got some white ones in other places, which is great. So they look really good. They also have a physical controller, which is important. So we do have one of these, which is great. So I've got that sitting next to the bed for the one in the master. Really easy to use buttons. Backlit as well. Then when you do things like change the fan speed, the fan's got little blue lights on it. And I know that 3 blue lights on is about perfect for me. So I'll drop a link in here into the chat. These are Haiku fans. Yeah, and they do look pretty cool as well. They're very, very quiet as well, which is super awesome. So I think we'll be putting a lot more of these in, which is good. What else is going on here? James says, if you haven't seen their industrial fans, it's really something to see. I have seen them, and they are big ass fans. Geez, what do you reckon the diameter of those is? James, must be 5 or 6 meters or something. They're just huge. Stephen says, I have a sensor near my TV to count people watching and pause after adverts finish on streaming services if the number is less than before the advert. Oh, right. So like people leave the room and because it's an ad, and then you pause it when they come, oh, that's clever. That's really clever. I like that. James loves that. Steven says, I really need to start sharing more of my home automation other ways than in comments and forums. Yeah, well, I mean, look, there are a lot of people sharing a lot of things out there, you know, to their credit. I think it's just one of these things where it becomes a bit of a passion project. I kind of joke, like my break from writing code for Have I Been Pwned is to write code for Home Assistant and make random shit around the house work. It was really fun. We had I mentioned we're doing this big job next door. We are building a dedicated theatre. I will talk more about that in the future because it's kind of nuts how carried away you can get on this. Even sitting down with the guys, when was this? 2 days ago, 3 days ago. And they're like, yeah, Charlotte's got all these ideas about how she wants lights and things. And I sort of said, well, even if they're just LEDs like recessed into a wall, we need to make sure that none of them can point towards the screen so that we don't have a reflection on the screen. And then when we do like the steps, because there'll be like 2 levels to the theatre, we need to make, you know, we can have the front of the steps be carpet. We need to make sure that they're not wood so that when you have little downlights on them, they don't reflect back onto the screen. It's just like, holy shit. But anyway, the fun thing is they're walking around the house. They're like, what is all this stuff? And I'm really, really happy with the folks we've found here. Very, very much our people in terms of living in that maker ecosystem, super nerdy. Know Home Assistant very well also. So yeah, it's kind of cool to walk around and see all this stuff. Now, Stefan says the Ubiquity all-in-one sensor looks awesome as well. I need to talk to my Ubiquity fairy about that one. One sensor looks awesome as well. Motion magnet, open, close. You do have quite a few of those. Reed switches, light, temp, humidity. I'll try that one as well. I'm so looking forward to seeing that home theatre one day. I will do a dedicated session on it. I really feel like I've gone completely off track here at the moment because we're 13 minutes into this on the biggest week of our Have I Been Pwned live, Stefan. I really haven't talked about it. So let me talk about that, and then we will do a dedicated cinema session at some point in time when I actually understand what the hell it is we're buying. Okay. Have I Been Pwned? Where do we begin? We did the launch. I felt at some point in time we needed to commit to a date because these things can roll on a little bit, and for various reasons, due to everything from travel commitments to when the kids stay with us because they're here half the time, through to other social events and subscription renewal dates. And all sorts of things like that. The date was this weekend just gone. So we made that commitment, I want to say about 6 weeks ago. And we did somewhat burn the midnight oil. I think, Stefan, is a fair way to put it, isn't it? Down towards that date. And we did a lot of this, of course, in the public domain. We've got this preview site still up there, preview.haveibeenpwned.com, the static preview site that Ingeborg did most of the front end on. So we built that up. And then as that was going along and we got to a point of maturity of migrating that into a branch of the live site, Steph and I then had effectively a private preview site that was meant to be fully functional. It had a bunch of broken stuff in it. We just kept fixing that until it was done. Got through to Saturday, got our publicly facing staging site live. So that was great. So now we had something publicly facing that we could address with things like performance tools and things like what else we do there. In the blog post I mentioned one of the things I wanted to look at is what resources do we have on the current site which then don't exist on the new site. Now, as it turns out, I did not find them all. For example, I forgot that we had an RSS feed. So we went like a day without an RSS feed because it got missed. Anyway, that went on a publicly facing site. The way we do deployments with Azure is on check-in to the appropriate branch in our GitHub repository. GitHub picks it up, builds it, pushes it out to Azure, deploys it automatically. That sits there in the staging site, non-production site. In theory, we go through and we make sure everything in that site actually still works. And then in Azure, we do a slot swap. So it's literally saying you've got these two slots, they're part of the same app. Everything's deployed and working in one of them. Hopefully it's warm, so it's actually started running if you've gone and tested it, and then it just literally swaps it. And I think, Stefan, it really just updates like DNS and configuration settings, doesn't it, from one slot to the other. So that's our go live process, and that takes, what's the build taking at the moment, like 5 minutes. Build and deploy, something like that. The slot swap takes another minute or something like that. So we've been doing a lot of that. That's the way we went live Sunday morning. And that's why since Sunday morning, we must have done, it's slowed down a bit now, but at least 6, 7, 8, 9 deployments every single day, because we got it out and there were bugs. Surprise, surprise. Like I said, feeds were missing. The RSS feeds were missing. A few other little glitchy things in different places. And we're literally just going through looking at either tickets that come in or using the site ourselves and going, okay, well, look, that's either a bug or the wording's not quite right, or we didn't use the right CSS class so the font looks funny. And just rapidly deploying everything back out. There were some features that we just did not get done in time. Most notably, if you are a paying subscriber, there is a facility to change your email address. Now, that's something that we consciously just didn't have done in time. It's a feature that's not used very much. There's usually not a time criticality to it, but we ended up with a backlog of tickets of people saying, hey, how do I change my email address? There's a long tail of other stuff we had to update as part of this as well, because it's not just the website, it's all of the external references to the website in things like our Zendesk support system. So we've got lots of knowledge base articles with references and screen grabs. So we've been going through redoing all of those, pushing the brand out. I still haven't figured out in Zendesk how to actually update the logo in our signature. So I have to figure that out. I still haven't redone the email signature in our normal Outlook-based emails, because email signatures are a freaking nightmare to make work across clients. So it's still got the old logo. Like, there's just this massively long tail where the pressure has come off. If I send an email, it's got the wrong logo, nothing goes wrong, but it's just that long tail of stuff that is still to do. So that's going to be ongoing. I think we're getting towards the end of it, though, aren't we, mate? Like it's going to be ongoing. There's a little bit more to do, and then we'll be done. That's hopefully the plan. Now, what else has been happening in here? Turnstile. I put a note in here about Turnstile. Did we get an answer on that overnight, Stefan? I haven't actually gone through my emails properly. We're talking to Cloudflare about this. Yeah, there's something here. I'll read that later. Okay, so Turnstile. Everyone knows reCAPTCHA. Everyone hates Google reCAPTCHA. Oh, I saw the worst. I actually screen grabbed this. I don't think I'll tweet it, but I was on VPN yesterday because I was doing some things related to a new data breach. Not bad things, good things. I needed to be in a different country. And I was trying to log into my Microsoft account. I can't believe the anti-automation. I have not seen this anti-automation control before. Tell me if you've seen this one. it says, let's get you started. Using the arrows, move the person to the indicated seat. Now, in one image, they've got what looks like a 5, but it's, you know, when you see numbers or words in any sort of anti-automation, they look crap intentionally, so they can't just be like OCR'd out by the bots. It looks like a 5 and it says match this. And then on the right side, it's got another image which looks like a movie theater with seats, and they're 5 across and they're 5 deep. So we've got 25 seats there. And then it's just got, for each row, a different number. And one of those numbers is meant to match the number in the left screen. And then there's a person sitting in a seat and there's arrows, and you have to keep clicking the arrows so that the seats rotate and they reposition the person until they're in the seat that matches the image on the left. And not only that, but I had to do, it was either 8 or 10 in a row. And I got one of them wrong. And then it made me go back to the start to start doing them all again. And I was like, surely this, am I on the right web? This is actually a Microsoft website. I suspect I got like the Uber level of anti-automation because of being on a VPN, and perhaps due to the exit node I was on as well. But I tell you that story to make the point that we've all seen really abrasive anti-automation controls before that have led to the face palming that I had when I saw this one. Now, as it relates to have I been pwned, there are various places where we need to have some form of anti-automation control, and I'll talk you through it. There's really two main things. So number one, really obvious one, the search on the front page. We need an anti-automation control there because if we don't have it, people will scrape the hell out of the API. Now, this is why in 2019, I put auth on the API. This was when I set up the Stripe account, and maybe you have to go and get an API key via Azure API management, and then that key has to be passed into the app, and it has to make sure that you have a valid key, and then it sets a rate limit. It sets a rate limit so that you don't hammer the hell out of our system, and we've got some predictable traffic. Those requests translate through to costs on our side. The requests that I was seeing before putting the API key on as well, too often were not good. This didn't look like people using it for good purposes. This felt like people just mass enumerating email address lists. So that's why the API got the key. And to get the key, you had to have a credit card. And then suddenly all of the bad stuff on that API went away. But of course, you still want people to be able to come to the front page and search. So how do we lock that down? Well, we've got to have anti-automation on the front page, which we have had for years now. It's just been invisible. It hasn't been trying to position someone on a movie seat 10 times in a row just so you can check your email address. Now, the way that I've done that, and I've written about it publicly before, is with Cloudflare's Turnstile. So Turnstile is Cloudflare's anti-automation control. Now, they have 3 main implementations of this. So one is the one that you don't see that's on the front page of Have I Been Pwned Now. That's called Invisible Turnstile. Don't know how they came up with that anyway. You've got Invisible Turnstile. Then they've also got one which is called a Managed Turnstile. So that is a little box that you see. And when that page loads, a little thing goes around, and then that proves that you're not a bot. Now, in both of those cases, they don't tell you exactly how they do that for probably very obvious reasons. But inevitably, they are looking at heuristics of the browser, the interaction of the user with the screen, the reputation of the IP address. There's lots of stuff that goes into the secret sauce of how Cloudflare tries to figure out if you're a bot or not. They also have an interactive Turnstile widget, and that's where there's a checkbox, and you have to go and click the checkbox, and I assume it still does all those other things in the background as well, and eventually decides that you're not a bot. Now, our thinking was, on the basis of nobody liking anti-automation controls and recaptures, that front page should use invisible. In fact, our default was all of them, and at this moment, possibly not by the end of the weekend, but at this moment, they all use the invisible one. So when you go to the front page and you do a search, if you look at the dev tools, you'll see network requests for a path with Turnstile. You look at your console, you'll see that there's Turnstile tokens that are issued. So what actually happens is you go there in your web browser makes a request to Cloudflare's Turnstile service. That does all the secret sauce magic about figuring out whether you're a bot or not, and it returns a challenge to you. in fact, it's a challenge token, I think is the correct term. And you then need to take, you as a developer, then need to take that token and then send it with the request that you want to be anti-automated. So you'll see that there's a unified search request from the front page. One of the fields that goes in there is this Cloudflare token. The token, I believe, can only be used once. It is then time limited as well. We need to make sure that when you do a search, we call the Cloudflare API to reissue a new token as soon as possible. So if you're a normal human on the front page and you search for yourself and then you search for your wife and then you search for your parents, each time you're getting a new Cloudflare token from Turnstile, you're sending it with the request, it gets validated, you're good to go. That's when it all works. Now, what happens if Cloudflare thinks you're a bot? Now, this is where it gets a little bit trickier. If they think you're a bot, something needs to happen. We can't do the search. So what we're doing is we're falling back to a full page post. So effectively, our client-side script says, asynchronously make the call to the unified search, send the Turnstile token. If we get a response back that's like a 401 unauthorized, post the entire form back to the root of the website. So in your DevTools, if you fail the Cloudflare challenge, you will see a full page request that sends the email address in the form to Cloudflare. We've then got a Cloudflare firewall rule on post requests to the home page that present an interactive challenge. So the whole page unloads. You see one of those Cloudflare things, you check the box, and then you progress. Now, after that, there seems to be something to do with reputation of either the client or the IP address or a combination of everything in Cloudflare cookies and things that get sent that mean that you can probably then just do the asynchronous one for your next search. So if you search for yourself, you're a bot, full page post back, page comes back, Cloudflare Turnstile tokens and things load, you search for your wife, and then that one goes through asynchronously and you're okay. And that's about as graceful as we can make it. Now let me just look at the comments and I'll tell you what's gone wrong with this. I can see a few here. Now, you will not need to, well, actually, you kind of do need to pre-book seats in our theatre when it's done. Stephen says, we need to schedule an extra live stream for Cinema Talk. Absolutely, we will do that. Daniel says, you should set up that anti-automation for password purgatory. And, I did think about that because where we're going with this is that we've had way too many Turnstile failures. And I did think, I am frustrated by this. Wouldn't it be nice if spammers were frustrated by this as well? James says the recapture bypass tools for Cloudflare are mostly dead from what I've seen. Well, good. That's kind of the point. Dale recently found himself wondering if recapture is localized. I kept being asked to identify fire hydrants, but we really don't have them in the UK. I just think all of those implementations are just various levels of shit. Cloudflare actually has multiple controls. So it has Turnstile, but it also has for every single request. Now, some of this might be enterprise as well that you don't get on the free one. For every single request, there is a bot score. Now, 1 is very bot, 99 is very human, and then there's a spectrum. And the cool thing about this is that Cloudflare routes such a huge amount of the world's traffic that they see pretty much everything. So if there's bots out there doing bot-like things, against a completely unrelated asset to your own, but it's somewhere within Cloudflare's infrastructure, they can start to score everything from that IP address to that user agent to the JA3 tag, which is a unique tag that identifies effectively the client that's being used to make the request. There's a lot that they can do around reputation, which they can then tell you about. So you can then go into your Cloudflare configuration and you can go, hey, look, I'm getting... we had one yesterday where it's like, hey, there's a lot of abuse happening against this API or attempted abuse where the bot score is like a 2. And really, if you look at it, everything up to, I won't say the amount, but everything up to a certain number here is very, very likely bot. And I think that about like 0.01% of things under that score are going to be human. Like 1 in 10,000 or something like that. So let's put a firewall rule in that's going to challenge anything under that threshold. So you can do a lot of stuff like that. And we're just like toggling all the dials, trying to figure out the right sweet spot. Now, the problem that we've had is, well, let's talk about the other bit where we've got reCAPTCHA too, because we've got a fallback position on that homepage. The other thing we need to be very cautious about stopping and automation with is anything that sends emails. If you've got an endpoint that sends an email, sign into the dashboard, the opt-out feature, the verify my email, the set up a new domain and send an email to webmaster in order to see if you actually want to add that domain to your dashboard. Any of those things are ripe for abuse. Now, you might sort of go, well, look, how useful is it for someone to, let's say, spam the sign-in link that sends the email? It's not necessarily going to get them anything, but it pisses people off. And what I mean by that is you're going to get people who had no interest in your service who are getting email. Now, that can happen anyway by just typing the address in. But if it's happening thousands, tens of thousands of times, and your service is being used to effectively spam people, a bunch of them are going to hit the little "this is spam" thing in their email client. And before you know it, you end up on a naughty list somewhere and you're unable to send email. Plus, of course, email has a cost. So we've got to avoid any situation where we can be put at risk by people spamming other people with emails. So all of those features I just mentioned have anti-automation. Now, if I pick an example here, we'll go to this together. If I go to haveibeenpwned.com and I click on the dashboard button on the top, I'll sign myself out so I can go through from scratch. Dashboard, sign into your dashboard, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And then I put in my email address. And I just put the enter key just here. And verification sent. That's done. Now, what wasn't immediately obvious, but you can see in the DevTools, is when that page loaded, I got the little request to the Cloudflare API, I got the challenge token back. When I clicked the button to log on, that sent the token with the asynchronous API request to the endpoint, verified the token, good to go, email sent. We think possibly about 10% of people are not getting the little green response here. They're getting a red box. It says error happened or something like that. And then effectively says, we've got anti-automation here. It thinks you're a bot. Can you click the button again? And what we've found is, let's say it's happening 10% of the time. Most of the time in that 10% bracket, when people then click the button again, Cloudflare's seen enough human-like behavior to issue you a valid token, which then allows you to submit the form. We seem to be getting around that most of the time. I honestly don't have any outstanding tickets or complaints where someone's like, I just can't get through. So we've got a fallback position there, which effectively involves letting Turnstile get it right. Now, I question whether 10% is the right number. It feels very high. And I've put this to Cloudflare and said, here's what we're experiencing. Can you help us figure out what's going on here? The question I haven't put to them, Stefan, and I think we've discussed this on chat, is if not invisible reCAPTCHA, if we have the managed one or the interactive one, is your rate of false positives much lower? And as a result of that, should we consider using one of those, or do we say it's okay to have the 10% of instances? This is assuming we've implemented it all right, because we're looking at it going, we think we've done all of this right. It works most of the time, but the 10%. Is it worth having 10% of people have to click the button again rather than 100% of people see the little Cloudflare thing and possibly have to click it if we do the interactive one? That's the discussion that we're having with Cloudflare at the moment, or that's the bit that we need to have. At the moment, we're just trying to figure out why is the challenge not being passed by, let's say, 10% of people. It's a shitty situation because you end up with people being upset about getting presented the old classic reCAPTCHAs or the Microsoft choose the movie seat one, which is a terrible user experience. And then you go the other way, and then people get upset because it's like, well, we use the invisible one and it thinks you're a robot. It's just a little bit like not being able to win. Steven says, maybe we need a capture. We have to pick the worst captures just to prove you're human. I'm just fascinated by how bad some of these are. They're just terrible. Dale used saw one capture, which asked him when the company was formed. I had to go to a web search to find the answer just to submit the stupid form. There was a theory for a long time. I'm not sure if this was true or not, where people were saying, well, you know, like the original Google recaptures were all about there's a blurry number in a photo and you had to enter the number. There's a theory that people are saying, well, this was part of helping like Google Street View. This was before AI as we know it. This was part of like helping Google Street View actually index things correctly. It's like you're not just doing anti-automation, you're doing work for Google. So I don't know how much of that is true. Now, Stefan's saying just don't type your email too fast, because we're speculating a little bit about what are the circumstances that cause Cloudflare to think you're a robot. You know, what is behavior that is not human-like? Now, again, there's obvious reasons why they're not going to tell you exactly how they do this. And I assume that there's all sorts of levels of obfuscation in at least the code that's returned to you with the request for tokens and things. But we would imagine that one thing that is very human-like is to see a pace of data entry, which is not just everything magically filled in, but then again, password managers and a lot of browsers will remember the email address that you use and enable you to autofill it, and they've got to be considerate of that. So maybe it's not that simple. Wayne says, I have to log in every time to the dashboard. Doesn't leave me logged in. So Stefan, I've been wondering this too. So the way this should work is at the moment, you should remain logged in for 72 hours, not sliding. And there are other reasons why we did that to do with the tokens that are passed to domain search, which Stefan we're going to fix. We know how to do that. We don't have one of the little checkboxes to say, leave me logged in. We do have the little log out thing. What I think we'll do is when we solve that token thing, and Stefan, that's just about persisting that auth in the cookie and sending that to the API domain and then having synced cryptographic keys server side so that your cookie gets decrypted correctly on both. Anyway, you know what we're doing. Once we do that, I think we can make the sessions longer running. The other thing I definitely want to do is I want to add passkey support because we keep pushing passkeys. So I would love to have a little section in your dashboard where after you do the normal login at the moment, it's like, would you like a passkey? And you go, yeah, I'd like a passkey. And then the next time you come back and you're not logged in properly, you just autofill from your password manager, passkey goes in, and you don't have to get emails anymore. So that's on the cards too. But yeah, Wayne, I agree. I'm also anecdotally seeing it after a redeploy. So Stefan, I'm not sure if that key gets rotated or something after a redeploy. But look, just now I went in and I was automatically still logged in. And I had not used that feature today. But yeah, anyway, we're working on it. We know. This is one of those little rough edges. Okay, what else is here? Stefan suspects that in those challenges, the challenge is simply taking too long to finish and people are clicking the button before it's done. There's one of the things we discussed, which is, should we disable the button until the challenge finishes? But I also think, mate, like if you think about Cloudflare's fast, right? It's meant to be really, really fast. How long does it take someone to type an email address in? Why is it taking that long to finish? We need, from Cloudflare, and I think, again, there might be an email in here somewhere about that, we need a reference architecture for the challenges. So how do we implement Turnstile here? And I'm actually thinking, mate, I might even do this today. Let's just stand up like a simple white page somewhere with nothing else on it, no CSS or fancy stuff, and a button and an asynchronous call to an endpoint somewhere. We'll put some logging and some debugging on the page, and we'll go, this is our reference architecture. Is this correct? And I'd like to hear from the folks at Cloudflare if we've done this right or if we're missing something. And as Stefan knows, that they are very, very receptive to this because they want to make Turnstile as good as they possibly can. Now, we are issuing, I think, let's have a look. I'm going to check my number before I even say it. And I think I know what it is in the back of my head. If we go to Turnstile here on the Cloudflare dashboard, let's see how many Turnstile challenges we're issuing each day. In the last 24 hours, we have issued 2.44 million challenges. Keeping in mind that sitting there on the page, we'll issue a challenge again on a fairly regular cycle. So if people just leave it open, we didn't have 2.44 million people there. We probably had 200,000 or something. But it goes over and over. Our solve rate at the moment is 79.2%. So of that roughly 20% that did not solve it, some of those are bots. And that's the whole point of it. The rest are humans with false positives. And that's the bit we've got to iron out. But anyway, the point is, when we're doing 2.5 million challenges or something a day, we've got a pretty hefty sample size that Cloudflare can hopefully dig more into. James is asking if you have them cleared automatically for privacy or just aren't accepting others as cookies in. I hear you got to be really worried about cookies. Probably not. Stefan says, maybe slot swaps kill the encryption key. Let me look at that tomorrow. I think we can move to Key Vault pretty easily. Yeah, so Key Vault seems to be the thing we keep coming back to, which is Azure's cryptographic key management system. And by doing centralized key management as opposed to effectively in the app itself, we can use that centralized repository so that when the app swaps slots, we've still got the same key. Plus, we can get our API app over there, which is running in functions, completely different infrastructure to the Azure App Service. We can get that using the same keys as well, so we can synchronize things like cookie-based auth login. Stefan says, I love their support. They don't mess around fixing things. Yep. They just do it and throw manpower at it. Yeah, no, they do. They do. So I'm looking forward to actually reading. I think that email came in, something came in from the Well Oz at OzCert yesterday. We had our annual cybersecurity conference here on the Gold Coast, probably Australia's, certainly the most preeminent sort of more corporate-y cybersecurity conference. We have every year. It's called OzCert, from the OzCert organization. And they run it here on the Gold Coast, which is great. So it's a 15-minute Uber ride. So I haven't actually been to the conference yet. I've been to the whiskey night before the conference. We've been to the gala dinner last night, which was nice. And I'm busting our daughter, out of school early today to take her to go and do some lockpicking and Lego, among other cyber things. So anyway, Dale says, maybe you should build the capture into the EU cookie banner. Oh, jeez. Incidentally, that was one of the things that I made a comment in the blog post, the launch blog post. There's so many other things we had to do to launch this site that aren't immediately obvious. And one of them was updating terms of use and privacy policy. And that means going back to lawyers. And this time, we did actually say, please put, we're not EU. I know people from the EU may visit it. It's the frickin' internet. That's how it works. But please put a cookie mention somewhere in here. And I think we put that in privacy. There's that. Because we are not doing cookie banners. Logging in cookies. Yeah, here we go. So this is now our statement on this, which of course you'll read before using the service in just the same way that when you get warnings about cookies, you read those. We use cookies to support your use of the website and improve its functionality. When you visit our website, it will automatically send you a cookie, some reason I want that quote, over HTTPS. A cookie is a piece of text or byte. Interesting. I have read these, but I've done a lot lately. Or byte sent from a web server to your computer is used to identify you, but only by a random number. It does not identify you to us, but it does tell us that your computer has visited our website and the pages you have browsed. I think we need to tweak this a bit. You can decline cookies anytime by adjusting the accept cookie settings in your browser, but it can affect the functionality of the website for you. Now, to be clear, obviously the concern about cookies is privacy. That's why it's on our privacy policy. And in particular, tracking, targeting, everything else. So we don't have anything that's even remotely close to that. We got rid of Google Analytics many years ago. I think many years ago. Certainly hasn't been there for a long time. Definitely not there now. We use cookies to persist your authenticated state, so there's a functional purpose. Cloudflare sets some cookies as part of their, obviously part of Turnstile stuff we just mentioned before. Some of their other secret source magic things that Cloudflare do to make the service better. So we do have cookies for that purpose. In fact, we did say here, we do not use third-party cookies or tracking pixels to collect or receive your information from the website and elsewhere on the internet, and we don't conduct targeted marketing or retargeting, or serve you ads. Yeah, right. So none of that's to do with cookies. I am going to send the lawyers back some edits to this. It's technically not correct. And I know basically no one reads this stuff anyway, but I would like to rephrase that. So that's going to cost us by the 6-minute block to get that fixed. But this is now the nature of the service. Like, you have to do this stuff, and we need people like lawyers to do this. And we use big multinational digital lawyers who can help us get this stuff right worldwide. Yeah, unfortunately, that's expensive. Joe's here. G'day, Joe. If you're relying on machine key, it'll be different between the slots, I think. And I think machine key is the key that is used for the likes of signing cookies, is it not? The auth cookies. So yeah, well, Stefan, it's an easy fix. Next time, before we do a deployment, let's make sure we're logged in on production. Not logged in on stage. It shouldn't matter anyway. Yeah, then the cookie would be bound to a different domain unless, yeah. Okay. Anyway, we'll try that. Logged in, swap the slot. Are we still logged in? But we know how to fix it anyway. Dale says, as in detecting the bots based on interaction, not forcing you to complete a captcha to accept reject cookies. It's already annoying enough. Yeah, yes, it is very, very annoying. Okay. Stefan says, I have a better idea. Let's just go with the Azure Key Vault. And that's the proper fix. Yes, it is. I'm just curious. I will probably have to deploy something today, so I'll test that when I do it. Now, what else did we have? There was something else here on the list. That was, no, there wasn't. Oh, let's talk about all the other random stuff that comes to mind with it. Merch store's going well. I think our biggest customer so far is Stefan. I assume. So we are sending Stefan a big care package, and I look forward to seeing you wearing all of the things that we sent through. We should order some for ourselves as well. We have not gotten around to that yet. But there has been a lot of love for the merch store. I'm not convinced that Teespring is a great service, though. So Teespring, Charlotte went and researched all of these, decided that Teespring was the right one to use, mostly because we don't want to hold any stock or anything like that. We don't want to make profit out of it. You just want it to be, all we want to do is get T-shirts and drop PNGs on them and go, please print this and send it and just handle it all and then just charge whatever it costs. Teespring is in Have I Been Pwned already, as in they have been breached. They're in there, which is a little bit ironic, I guess. But there's just a couple of things that are very, very screwy. Now, one of them is we have bound merch.haveibeenpwned.com to Teespring. There's a CNAME entry which does that. It works. And then people were saying to me, and I didn't initially figure out what this was. They're like, hey, when I share this link to the merch store, it's 0.0.0.0. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, aren't you just like copying and pasting the URL? And what people are doing is they're using the share button, let's say on iOS. So they're in Chrome and iOS, and they click the little share button. Now, that evidently picks up the meta tag for the canonical URL of the page. And for some reason, Teespring has got the canonical URL set as 0.0.0.0, not the actual URL or the domain that is bound to the service. So that's breaking every single share. Now, I submitted a ticket from Charlotte's email yesterday. I'll explain why I had to do that in a moment. I submitted this ticket and we still haven't heard back from them. So that remains broken and we're just having trouble getting a response. The reason I had to use Charlotte's email is she set all of this up and then she added my email as a collaborator or whatever it is. And then I get an email from Teespring and it's like, hey, click here to confirm you. You know, we've all done this before. And I click there and there's a login page. See if I can do it again now. See if it's still broken because this is so screwy. And on this login page, after I put in my credentials, it comes back and says failed reCAPTCHA. Back to freaking reCAPTCHA again. Here you go. You have been invited to Troy Hunt. So apparently Troy Hunt is the name of the store. I'm not quite sure why she used that exactly, but let's give this a go. So here's what I'll do. I'll follow the link. Troy Hunt wants you to join their team on Spring. Why is it Spring and not Teespring? Why is that link not working? Oh, here it is. It's open over here. All right, so we are on teespring.com. And it says, don't have a Teespring account, you can create one, or enter email address, password, and remember. Now, I only noticed this now, but right at the top of the screen in a grey box, it says reCAPTCHA verification failed. Please try again. Now, I'm not on VPN. I'm on normal mainstream connection, and reCAPTCHA has failed before I even try and log in. If I do put my credentials in, then I get a JSON response about reCAPTCHA failing. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, why don't I just go to the home page and I'll log myself in, and then I'll go and accept the request. And because I'm already logged in, I won't have to go through the reCAPTCHA process. No, it still shows that same page. And I logged a support ticket. And I got a link to a KB, which is completely freaking useless. The KB, I'll drop it into the chat here. We can all wonder at how completely bloody useless this is, this circumstance. How to fix the reCAPTCHA verification failed error? Question mark at the end. I'm not sure where they've outsourced this to. Try again later and restart the computer. Make sure the browser is up to date. Use another internet browser like Firefox, Opera, and etc. Use another computer or turn on off the modem with a brand new IP. For fuck's sake, all of this is dumb. And to say that the most dumb one, that's actually not the most dumb one because I just read further. Number 13. So, okay. Number 11, disable ad blockers. It's not a great answer. Number 12, enable JavaScript. Number 13, may Google for more help, in bold. And then it gets dumber as well. On top of that, avoid using bland email addresses such as contact@yourdomain.com, office, admin, info. If you're using the above generic email addresses, then we suggest changing your email address. And I kind of went back and I said, none of that helps. And I've also just noticed, yeah, it's just, it's crazy. And then when it was like 2 days ago now, more than 48 hours ago, can you please connect with someone? I had to follow up. Can you please connect with someone who can help? So I am not particularly happy with the way Teespring are running their service at the moment. And if somebody knows a better one, by all means, I'm happy to switch. Where are Teespring actually based? If I start talking publicly about this, I mean more publicly than just here, maybe that will fix the problem. Give them a bit of attention. We are a group of individuals committed to operating as one team. Well, they just distributed. Our work environment is very unique as a collection of dedicated professionals working across various cities, including San Francisco, Los Angeles, London, Hebron, Kentucky. It's an interesting mix. All right, I'm gonna start mentioning these guys publicly. I won't ask for security contact. They've already been down that road. But I will ask for someone that can help. Stephen says I wear hoodies all the time, so he's looking forward to it, which is good. Did I try restarting my Unify router? Look, I mean, it shouldn't be any of those things, obviously, but I did go, okay, why don't I just try on my iPad over 5G? Why don't I go to my laptop instead and do it on Wi-Fi? All the let's just rule out all the likely scenarios. James says that sharing bug is strange. I've never seen that on any site before. The sharing bug. Which was the sharing bug? Dale reported login issues to LG recently on their TVs. They suggested my email might be at fault because I own my own domain rather than using Gmail, and asked me to create a new email address. You've just ended up with some outsourcing numpty. Carl says, are you planning on offering stickers with the new logo on? Your GitHub still has the old work. I don't think it does. I think it's the new one. No, we definitely have the new ones there. So the GitHub, there is a Have I Been Pwned organization with a branding repository. And on the front page of that, it says stickers. where you can either download them or you can go to the Sticker Mule store. I'll talk more about that guy in a moment. Yeah, look, there's an icon that is 2 months old. There's an SVG. That is the sticker that we've done on Sticker Mule. There is also a PNG that's 3,000 wide, just in case you need a PNG. So, Carl, as far as I know, everything that we've published, I'll even drop a link to deep link you all the way into the sticker section, is correct. If you're seeing an old sticker somewhere, let me know. We'll go and figure it out. James says the 0.0.0.0, which I think you're meant to say port 3000 link when you share from Android. Yeah, I know. It's crap, and they won't answer our questions, which is really annoying. All right, the Sticky Mule guy. Now, we'll finish on this note because it's a bit lighthearted and entertaining, if I'm honest. You may have noticed things being very political in America lately. Has anyone picked this up? When I got the Sticker Mule store set up, a bunch of people were like, don't use Sticker Mule because of the CEO. I was like, I'm trying very, very hard not to be political about any of these things. I just think there are more important things going on. And I did get eventually curious, and I'm like, why not? Like, what is the problem here? And I did remember something to do with Trump, where I had gotten spam from Sticker Mule, very pro-Trump spam. And I went and did a search for it, and I remembered then that the CEO is very MAGA. Anthony Costantino. All right, I'll drop his Twitter here for you. His ex. I mean, his pinned tweet is him and Trump. You know, whatever. That's politics. But a lot of people are unhappy with that because reasons. So I went, okay, so here's all the open source artwork. You can download it, you can get it printed somewhere else. Incidentally, we looked at doing stickers on Teespring, and they looked terrible. You had to have like a white boundary around them because of the vinyl that they're printed on. For all of their various problems, the Sticker Mule ones come out great. In fact, we've got 10,000 of them delivered just the other day. So they're a good quality. We've used them a lot. Product great. CEO's views, a bit more questionable. Where the guys popped up recently, there's an X account from someone called Derek Guy, Dye Workwear. And I started following it just because it was kind of fascinating. Every now and then it would pop up on my feed. And he's like a menswear fashion sort of guy where he sort of analyzes people's clothes of prominent people or this sort of thing, or talks about tailoring stuff. Now, evidently, I'm not a tailoring person, given what I wear all the time. But I just found it interesting because it was all a little bit, looking at cool shots of like Sean Connery as James Bond, and then here's the design things that went into his outfit and everything. So he's been quite interesting. And he has somehow ended up in an argument with the Sticker Mule CEO, where I can only describe this guy's behavior, the Sticker Mule CEO, as it's almost like Trump personified. It's just making these dumb arguments where the fashion guy is like, hey, look, if you're so MAGA, why don't you manufacture your T-shirts in America? Now, the obvious answer for that is that it's going to be too expensive and, they've got to sell T-shirts at a profit. But they've managed to end up in this raging argument where the fashion guy has been he's obviously baiting the CEO a little bit, but he's been reasonably level-headed, I think. The CEO of Sticker Mule has just behaved like an absolute, what would you say in America, jackass. Like an absolute jackass. I'm going to try and find the thread, and I can drop that in there for people's amusement because I find that's one of the things that's been most fun. Now, funnily enough as well, this CEO is constantly getting community notes, it looks like, on some of his messages here, where statements are being made that are obviously false. So anyway, here's the chat. Go and have a look if you derive some entertainment by just watching people argue online, and particularly the Sticker Mule guy being frankly, a cockhead about it. So if someone has a better option than Sticker Mule that has quality, I'm happy to look at it. I'm not invested enough in this debate or this guy's behavior to stop using a company that's making a good product. It's just a bit of a shame he's behaving that way because it is a good product. I think Sticker Mule is sort of ubiquitous with creating stickers online. So what would be really nice is if he behaves less, that's what I was going to say, less like he is at the moment. And it would also be nice to see some other options for stickers as well. All right, I'm going to start to round this out now. James says, I hate tech support. My ISP, they tried to blame me when the modem they gave me died. I had 2 network cards on my PC and they told me, you don't need 2 network cards. Oh, no. When I say they tried to blame me, I mean, they tried to blame my configuration and claimed their modem wasn't dead. Eventually they came out and it was dead, like I told them. Yeah, there we go. So, all right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up there. We are now past this hump of this HRBP 2.0 rollout, and I think we can just go back to hopefully more business as usual, hopefully more schedule as usual without us waking up at 3 or 4 o'clock every morning there for a very long time. And today my alarm woke me up at 6 a.m., which is very exciting for me. Thanks very much. I'll come back to you next week. Well, I think next week we will actually have some data breaches I'll be able to talk about as well, and it'll be just, more business as usual. Thanks, everyone. Catch you later.